Hey, what up? My name is Sky, like the big blue sky, and today I want to talk to you about a simple way to test and optimize your cold email campaigns. Now, I think a lot of people overthink and overcomplicate this process, so I want to explain very simply how you can do this, and there's two scenarios that I want to walk you through today. Scenario one is if you haven't launched anything and you just need to figure out what works. Scenario two is if you have some baseline campaigns running and now you want to optimize those campaigns to make them even better. So let's start with scenario one. Where I see most people go wrong when they're just starting out is they create one primary campaign that's based off of one primary angle or offer, and then they create other variations around that angle that are all just small micro variations, like changes to the subject line or changes to the call to action. And in my opinion, this is the wrong approach because all of your campaigns are still based off of that same primary angle offer campaign. And so if that one foundational angle doesn't work, even though you have multiple variations, the rest of those variations are also probably gonna suck because they're just tiny little tweaks off of the one primary angle. Instead, when you're just starting out and you have zero clue what's gonna work, you wanna have as much variation as possible on the big things, like your offer, the problem or the pain that you propose solving for your prospect, or the problem or the pain that you observe as the reason why or the justification for why your prospect should consider meeting with you in the first place. I wouldn't worry too much about trying to optimize like open rates with subject lines or your call to action. Of course, those things are important and they're useful to test, but if you don't know yet what offer is going to be the most compelling to your audience, what problem it is that they're facing that they absolutely have to respond back to you to get help with, then trying to optimize these micro pieces of your campaign is just majoring in the minors, and it's not actually going to drive any results for you. Now let's take a look at scenario two. All the same rules apply here. So if your offer sucks, or if the problem that you're proposing solving isn't that painful or important to your prospect, you're not gonna see a ton of results with your campaigns. But as long as you've got a baseline now, you've got some conversions coming in, you understand what copy to some extent works, what offer works, what angles work to get in front of your prospects and get them to respond positively back to you, now it's appropriate to start thinking about fine-tuning some of those other micro pieces of the campaign, like subject line or call to action. But regardless of changes that you want to make to a campaign or tests that you want to run to see if it would make things more effective, I have 3 rules for you that will help you make the right decision and ultimately have a successful test. Rule number 1 is to only change one variable at a time. If you don't control for variables, you're never gonna know what's working and why. And to take that even further, a variable doesn't just have to apply to your copy, it can also apply to your targeting and your list. So if you change the list source or the targeting criteria, that counts as a variable, and so you're gonna wanna make sure that you launch with a control group against it as a baseline. Rule number 2 is that you need a minimum of 100 enrollments in order for a test to have enough data to make a decision off of. Of course, there are exceptions to this rule, but generally speaking, 100 contacts being placed into a sequence is going to give you enough information to make a solid decision from. Rule number 3 is don't make decisions based off of vanity metrics. So what do I mean by this? Let's say you are running a test where you want to figure out how you can get more open rates on a campaign. So you change something about the subject line or the preview text in your email. But let's say that change that you made was something that was super clickbaity and it pissed people off. In that scenario, you might get higher opens, but lower conversions because people didn't like the campaign and they felt like you tricked them or they were mad with whatever changes that you made to the copy. And so if you just made a decision based off of the subject line, which is the variable that you were changing, then you would have made the wrong decision because ultimately I'm assuming what you want is more conversions, not just more opens, which means the metric that we want to use to drive our decisions is the conversion rate. So you can totally use the changes in other vanity metrics like open rates or click rates to help guide you and give you more information. But if it's not also correlated to an increase in conversions, then that number isn't useful for you. That's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. Control for variables, make sure you send at least 100 contacts in a sequence or a campaign before you make any changes, and make your decisions based off of conversion rates as opposed to making your decision based off of vanity metrics like open rates. That's all I got for you today. If you have more in-depth questions, I know that this was kind of high level, about testing and optimizing campaigns, you can drop me a comment down below. I'm more than happy to take a look at your campaigns or have a conversation with you about how your campaigns are doing so we can help you fix or fine tune anything that you're working on. But other than that, I wish you the best of luck, and I will see you on the next video.